Picture this. The year is 2000, and a group of computer scientists at Georgia Tech put together this visionary project they call the Aware Home.
Oh, right. The original smart home concept.
Exactly. It was this totally utopian, futuristic idea. The house was embedded with sensors, and the occupants wore these, early wearable computers.
Like early smartwatches, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But the critical part, the absolute genius of it, was that the entire system was a closed loop.
Meaning all the data stayed local.
Right. All the data generated by the house and the people in it stayed completely on those wearable computers. It was controlled entirely by the occupants.
Total privacy.
Total sanctuary. I mean, it's technology serving the individual without compromising the home.
Which is a beautiful idea, right? A true digital sanctuary built on the assumption that what happens in your house is fundamentally yours.
Yeah, but then, fast forward just 18 years to 2018, we get the Nest thermostat.
Ah, right. Owned by Google's parent company, Alphabet.
Yep. And this thermostat does a lot of what that Aware Home did. I mean, it tracks your movements, it learns your schedule, knows when you're home and when you're away.
But it is definitely not a closed loop.
Not even close. Instead of a closed loop, that highly intricate, sensitive data is uploaded to corporate servers and is shared across this vast ecosystem of third-party apps.
Right.
And if you want to use it, you have to agree to a privacy policy, a terms of service agreement, and an end-user licensing agreement.
It's just endless reading.
It is. Scholars actually figured out that to fully use the Nest ecosystem, a user might be subjected to nearly 1,000 opaque contracts.
1,000. That's just wild.
And if you don't agree, the device literally stops getting updates. Like your pipes could literally freeze.
The contrast is staggering. I mean, we moved from a closed loop of absolute privacy to a glass house where you're constantly being observed, and the entry fee is signing away rights you didn't even know you had.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are looking into Shoshana Zuboff's book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. And we're asking, how did we get here? Why did our digital home turn into a glass house where we are constantly watched?
Right, so we are going to explore what the author describes as a rogue, unprecedented economic mutation.
A mutation?
Yeah, it's an economic system where your private human experience is just claimed as free raw material. And it is crucial to understand right from the start. This isn't just about companies selling you things.
It goes deeper than that.
Much deeper. We are looking at a brand new architecture of behavioral modification. The argument here is that this threatens our human nature in the 21st century just as aggressively as industrial capitalism threatened the natural world in the 19th and 20th centuries.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand how we lost our digital sanctuary, the sources say we have to look back at the exact moment this new logic was invented.
Right.
But my first question is, why didn't we see it coming? Like, why weren't the alarm bells ringing back in the early 2000s?
Well, because it was genuinely unprecedented. I mean, when humans encounter something entirely new, our brains just automatically try to understand it using old categories.
Like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly. Think about when the first automobiles appeared, people called them horseless carriages.
Right, because they couldn't conceptualize a car.
Exactly. They only saw a carriage that was missing its horse. The book uses an even more dramatic historical example, actually.
Oh, what is it?
When the indigenous Taino people of the Caribbean first saw Spanish conquerors arriving in heavy armor, sweating on the beaches, they didn't have a conceptual category for European conqueror.
Right.
So they relied on their existing worldview and literally mistook them for gods. When something is truly unprecedented, it is practically invisible to us until it's too late.
That makes me think of the analogy the author uses from her own life. She describes standing in her house while it was catching fire.
Oh yeah, the fire analogy is perfect.
Right. As the smoke was filling the rooms, she started running around closing doors to prevent smoke damage. She was moving photo albums out to the porch.
She was acting as if the house was going to survive.
Exactly, like it would just need a good cleaning later. She couldn't comprehend that the entire house was about to completely vanish. And we reacted to early tech companies the exact same way.
We absolutely did.
We tried to save our little digital photo albums, completely unable to recognize that an entirely original form of capitalism was just burning the old rules to the ground.
That captures the illusion perfectly. And to find the spark that started that fire, we really have to go back to Google around the year 2001.
Okay, so the dot-com bubble had just burst?
Exactly. Investors were panicking, and Google, despite having a brilliant search engine, they desperately needed a reliable revenue stream to survive.
Because search was free.
Right. Up until that point, Google kept the data generated by user searches, what they called data exhaust, and used it strictly to improve the search engine itself.
So it was just a feedback loop.
Yeah, a healthy, closed cycle. You search, they learn how to make search better for you.
But then they realized that data exhaust contained something else entirely. Like, they were sitting on a gold mine without even realizing it.
Yep. They discovered behavioral surplus.
Behavioral surplus.
Right. They realized that all those typos, the timing of the searches, the phrasing, the hesitations, it wasn't just exhaust, it was a collection of predictive signals.
Signals that could predict what a user was going to do next.
Exactly, particularly what they might click on. Google realized they could take this surplus data, feed it into massive machine learning models, and create highly accurate predictions of user behavior.
And this birthed what the author calls the extraction imperative.
Yes. Suddenly, the goal wasn't just to make search better. It was to extract as much behavioral data as possible to feed these predictive models.
But wait, I have to push back here. Isn't this just targeted advertising? I mean, we've had that forever.
Right, that's what everyone says.
How is Google using my search history to show me an ad for sneakers? Any different from, a shoe company buying a highly specific ad in a running magazine?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the underlying mechanism is fundamentally different. In the magazine example, it's a direct value exchange. The magazine sells your attention to the advertiser based on broad demographics.
Okay.
But in surveillance capitalism, you are not the consumer. And despite that old cliche we hear all the time, you are not the product either.
Ah, the old, if it's free, you're the product line.
Right. Zuboff actually takes that cliche and turns it completely on its head. She argues you are not the product, you are the raw material.
Wow, raw material.
Yes. The actual product is the prediction of your future behavior, and that prediction is what gets sold to business customers in what she calls behavioral futures markets.
So advertisers, insurance companies, retailers.
Exactly. They are buying the computational certainty that you will take a specific action at a specific time. You are the mine, your data is the ore, and the refined product is a behavioral prediction sold to the highest bidder.
So it's a completely different paradigm. But if this system is so exploitative, if we are just raw material being mined, why did we also eagerly invite it into our lives? I mean, we practically rolled out the red carpet for these devices.
We did. And to understand that, we have to look at the historical context of the late 20th century. We entered what sociologists call the second modernity.
Okay, what was the first modernity?
The first modernity was the era of Henry Ford. Mass production, the assembly line, rigid conformity. You live the life your parents lived, you fit into a predetermined box.
Right, the whole picket fence ideal.
Exactly. But by the late 20th century, people started demanding highly individualized, self-determined lives. We wanted to be the authors of our own stories.
But that desire for individualization collided with a very harsh reality.
Yeah.
The sources describe this as the neoliberal habitat.
Yes.
Just as we wanted more freedom and self-expression, the economic safety nets were being stripped away. The economy became more ruthless, more competitive.
People felt incredibly insecure.
Yeah. Harried and desperate for effective tools just to manage the chaos of their daily lives.
Which created a massive vulnerability. I mean, we had a deep societal need for connection, efficiency, and tools that recognized us as individuals, not just a mass market. And that's when the tech industry offered a solution that felt like salvation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The book points to the Apple hack as the turning point.
Oh, this is a great example.
Right. When Apple introduced the iPod in iTunes, they completely flipped a century-old industrial logic. Henry Ford famously said, you can have any color car you want as long as it's black.
Mass efficiency.
Exactly. But Apple came along and said, you can have exactly the song you want, exactly when you want it, exactly where you want it. They gave the individual absolute primacy.
And that felt incredibly empowering. It felt like technology was finally aligning with our deep need for self-determination, but it also established a new behavioral pattern.
Because to get that ultimate personalization,
We had to start carrying a sensor-laden device everywhere we went.
it was essentially a Trojan horse. We invited it into our pockets because we wanted to customize life. We wanted our favorite songs and our custom calendars.
Yeah, we were wandering in an arid desert of modern stress and suddenly found a digital oasis.
Exactly. And the demand for that personalization required us to give up our habits, our locations, our routines. We welcomed the Trojan horse because it played our favorite music, completely ignoring the data extraction machinery hiding inside it.
That is the exact causal link. Surveillance capitalism exploited the path Apple cleared. The tech companies saw that we would eagerly surrender our data if the trade-off was convenience and a feeling of individualized control.
Right.
They offered us the exact tools we needed to survive the modern world, but they secretly attached a siphon to extract our behavioral surplus.
So once we were hooked, once the smartphones were in our pockets and the smart thermostats were on our walls, the extraction operation quietly expanded.
Far beyond what we just click on a screen.
Yeah, it reached into the physical world and even into our internal emotions. The book uses a heavy academic word for this: rendition.
The rendition. It is a heavy word. It's often associated with covert state operations. But in this context, rendition simply means the mechanics of violently transforming our private, messy human experience into structured behavioral data, entirely without our conscious consent.
So if they are tracking things beyond just my clicks, this has to be happening behind the scenes on platforms I use every day, right? Like my newsfeed or my maps.
Yes. It happens through a mechanism the author calls the two texts. Whenever you use a digital platform, you are engaging with the first text.
Okay.
This is the public one you read and interact with, your Facebook feed, your Google search results. You are the author and the reader of that experience, but simultaneously, the system is compiling a second text.
The shadow text.
Exactly. This is the shadow text, and it reads you.
Break down the mechanics of that for me. How does the shadow text actually work in real time?
Well, think of it as a continuous feedback loop. The shadow text logs your location, the microscopic movements of your phone's gyroscope, the speed at which you type, your typos, and even the emotional cadence of your posts.
Wow.
Now, let's say it detects your typing speed is erratic and frantic late at night. The shadow text infers that you are stressed, tired, and your willpower is mathematically proven to be at its lowest.
Oh, I see where this is going.
It then dynamically manipulates the first text your feed to show you ads for impulse purchases, comfort items, or outrage-inducing articles that will just keep you scrolling. It reads your physical state to modify what you see on the screen.
So to break the fourth wall for a second, if you are listening to this deep dive on a smartphone right now, the shadow text is logging, whether you paused it, if you were walking or driving while listening, and what other tabs you have open.
It absolutely is.
It is actively reading you while you listen to us.
Yes, and this raises an important question. Who knows all this? Who decides how it's used? And who decides who decides?
Basically, they know everything about us, and we know absolutely nothing about them or how their algorithms work. It's a completely one-sided mirror.
The technical term Zuboff uses is a hijacking of the division of learning in society. These companies have amassed an unprecedented concentration of knowledge, completely bypassing democratic oversight.
I can hear people listening to this right now thinking, but wait a minute, we literally agree to this. Every time I download an app or buy a device, I click accept on the terms of service.
The classic defense.
Right. Doesn't that make it a fair consensual exchange?
The author shoots that argument down completely. She argues the system relies on radical indifference and the dictatorship of no alternatives.
I have to laugh at the radical indifference part because I remember reading a study saying that if an average person actually read every privacy policy they encountered in a year, it would take them over 200 hours.
Yeah, nobody has time for that.
It's essentially a full-time job just to read the terms of service.
Yeah.
It's mathematically impossible.
Which proves the terms are designed to be unreadable. But the more sinister element is the dictatorship of no alternatives. It's less like a contract and more like a hostage negotiation.
How so?
Well, if you don't agree, you can't participate in modern society. Think about the daily reality of this. You literally cannot apply for a corporate job, navigate to a new hospital, or attend a school meeting via Zoom without accepting these terms.
Right.
It's not a choice, it's an ultimatum. Your participation in society is literally held ransom.
So what does this all mean for the end game? If they are hoarding all this data, building these incredibly detailed shadow texts, and forcing us into these ultimatums, where does this lead?
That's the scariest part.
Because it seems like it's no longer just about predicting that I might buy a pair of shoes.
You've hit on the most chilling part of the analysis. The goal shifts from merely predicting behavior to guaranteeing it.
Guaranteeing it.
Yes. Surveillance capitalism transitions from a focus on knowledge to a focus on power. The book calls this instrumentarian power.
Instrumentarian power. That sounds like a concept straight out of a dystopian sci-fi novel. How does it actually function?
It's deeply rooted in the work of the radical behaviorist B.F. Skinner.
Okay.
Skinner believed that human freedom was an illusion and that behavior could be perfectly shaped through conditioning, rewards and punishments.
Right, the Skinner box.
Exactly. Surveillance capitalism has essentially built the technological infrastructure to apply Skinner's theories at a global scale. The aim of instrumentarian power isn't just to know you, it is to gently nudge, tune, coax, and herd your behavior toward the profitable outcomes desired by the businesses buying your behavioral futures.
Let's ground this in a real-world example from the sources.
Mm-hmm.
Think back to the summer of 2016 and the Pokemon Go craze.
Oh, perfect example.
People were wandering around cities, staring at their phones, catching digital monsters. It looked like just a fun, augmented reality game. But Pokemon Go was incubated at Google.
It was a masterpiece of instrumentarian power in action.
It really was. The game was actually a real-world behavioral modification machine. The creators set up a behavioral futures market where businesses, bars, restaurants, fast food joints, coffee shops could literally pay to have foot traffic herded to their locations.
Yeah, sponsored locations.
Right. The game used digital rewards, placing rare Pokemon or game items at specific physical locations to seamlessly manipulate the physical movement of unsuspecting human beings.
Players thought they were playing a game.
But they were actually being remote controlled to deliver guaranteed foot traffic to paying customers.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it reframes how we need to view threats to our freedom. Historically, we fear totalitarianism.
Sure.
We fear the state, Big Brother, violence, terror, and the threat of the secret police. But instrumentarian power is entirely different. It is a bloodless coup.
A bloodless coup.
It doesn't use terror. It uses what Zuboff calls Big Other, a ubiquitous digital apparatus of smart devices and algorithms. Big Other doesn't want to torture you. It just wants to gently herd you into a confluent hive mind where your behavior is perfectly synchronized with market imperatives.
It's a tyranny of convenience and compliance.
Exactly.
It's invisible. And because it's invisible, and often quite fun like catching a Pokemon, we don't fight it. We just go along with it.
Yeah.
But where does this logic ultimately lead? If you take this architecture of behavioral modification, this gamification of our reality to its absolute extreme, what does society look like?
The sources point directly to China's emerging social credit system, like Sesame Credit, as the overt, logical extreme of this exact architecture.
Right.
In that system, the barrier between state power and corporate data completely dissolves. Data from your online purchases, your social networks, your physical movements, and your legal records are all fed into a centralized score.
So the shadow text steps out of the shadows and becomes public policy. How does that impact a person's daily life?
It merges gamification with computational certainty. If your shadow text shows you buying diapers, your score might go up, signaling responsibility.
Makes sense.
But if it tracks you playing too many video games, your score drops. And it goes further. If you associate with friends whose scores are low, your score drops.
Oh, wow. Guilt by association.
Exactly. And the consequences are entirely automated. Good behavior gets you fast-tracked for visas or waived deposits on rental cars.
And bad behavior.
Bad behavior restricts your ability to buy a high-speed train ticket, limits your internet speed, or prevents you from getting a bank loan. It is the ultimate expression of instrumentarian power, where the messiness of democratic politics is replaced by automated behavioral conditioning. Society becomes a machine of guaranteed outcomes.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We've traced this journey from the innocent early days of the internet, where search exhaust was just a tool to make search better, to the discovery of behavioral surplus.
Yeah, quite the journey.
We've seen how tech companies used a Trojan horse of individualization and convenience to build an inescapable architecture of behavioral modification. Surveillance capitalism has essentially claimed our inner lives, our emotions, and our movements as virgin territory for a new kind of strip mining, operating behind a cloak of inevitability.
The core lesson here for the listener is that this isn't just a debate about privacy. Privacy is honestly too small a word for what's happening.
So what is the right word?
What is truly at stake is the theft of your right to the future tense.
The right to the future tense. Break that down for us.
It is your fundamental human ability to have free will, to make promises, to act with autonomy, and to navigate the uncertainty of tomorrow. If a machine is predicting and modifying your behavior to guarantee an outcome for a third party, your future tense has been hijacked.
That is deeply unsettling.
It is. It is also the destruction of your right to sanctuary. As humans, we have a vital biological and psychological need for a space where we are not being watched, measured, or tuned. When the walls of our homes are filled with smart devices reporting back to Big Other, that sanctuary is gone.
While this sounds incredibly daunting, the digital future can still be our home. It just requires us to reject that hypnotic narrative that this specific technological trajectory is inevitable. Technology is not a force of nature. It is shaped by human and economic choices, and those choices can be challenged.
History shows us that capitalism can be tamed when society decides to fight back and build boundaries.
Look at the Industrial Revolution. Industrial capitalism was physically abusing workers, putting children in factories, running people into the ground. But eventually, society woke up and invented labor laws, unions, fire codes, and the weekend. We built guardrails to protect the human body from the extraction of industrial capitalism.
We established a physical sanctuary through collective action.
Right. But today, surveillance capitalism isn't mining our bodies. It is mining our inner lives, our thoughts, our choices. So perhaps our generation's greatest task is to invent a new kind of labor movement. But this time, a movement that strikes not for better physical wages, but for the fundamental right to own our own minds, to reclaim the division of learning and shatter the one-way mirror.
Beautifully put.
I want you to think about that. The next time a smart device cheerfully asks for your location or a new app wants access to your microphone, are you stepping into a digital oasis, or are you just feeding the shadow text?